Well, good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us for Todd Klindt's SharePoint podcast number 265, recorded live on Monday, October 19th, 2015, also known as Canadian Election Day. I don't know enough about who's running or why they're running to say anything without offending anybody. So vote early, vote often, get out there, do your thing. We're all pulling for you. But I am not in the election tonight, as you can tell. I'm not running for any seats of power in Canada. I'm right here with you guys. I'm Todd Klindt, and I'll be your host for this evening. While we're waiting on the edge of our collective seats for the outcome of the Canadian Prime Minister election, while you're doing that and you're sitting in there and you're refreshing your CBC, or I forget what the Canadian news channel is up there, go out to SharePoint.Rackspace.com, see what we're doing. We're doing important stuff too, not quite as important as the Canadian election, but quite important just the same. So SharePoint.Rackspace.com and see what's out there. And also, while you're out there, go to Rackspace.com/Microsoft and see what all is out there. And then open up another tab. So you've got CBC, you've got SharePoint.Rackspace.com, www.rackspace.com/Microsoft. Open up another one, look for some funny cat videos, and then open up another one and go to ToddKlint.com, and you can go to ToddKlint.com/blog. I'm out on Twitter at Todd Klindt, and you can see all the YouTube /Todd Klindt Netcast, all those crazy things. And I'm just out on the internet. I'm huge on the internet, so go find me out there. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about production notes. I come to you guys, to the production notes part of today's podcast, with a heavy heart. I've got bad news for you. I hope you're all sitting down. If you're in your car, try to stay on the road. This is some bad news. I will be out of town next week, and so Shane will be filling in. I know you're saying to yourself, "My God, that's horrible news." My goodness, I have bad news. It actually gets worse. I will be gone the next week as well, and Shane will be filling in that week also. He will be filling in 2 weeks in a row. So that is just bad news all over the place. So next week, I'm going to be at Dev Intersections. Of course, you guys know that because you listen to all of my podcasts religiously, start to finish, including the part at the end where I do my shameless self-promotion. So you guys have been looking forward to me going to Dev Intersections, counting down the days, much like I am, and that's going to be going on. So that is next Monday, the 26th, and I would try to do it from Vegas, but I'm like flying in right about the time this is happening, so it's not going to work. And then the week after that, I'm going to be in Redmond for the MVP Summit, and that will be a good time. Shane is not going to the MVP Summit, and so that works out well because he will be able to fill in. So I talked to Shane today about all this, and I gave him the rules, and he said, "So do I just get to talk about whatever I want to?" And I said, "Well, yeah, because you would do that regardless of whether I told you what to talk about." The only advice that I gave him was a matter of personal hygiene. His wife has been gone for 10 days. She got back last night. She was gone for 10 days, and he has not shaved since then. I thought I looked pathetic and sad when I don't shave for a long time. Oh my goodness, he looks horrible. I could not come up with words harsh enough to mock him. Just terrible. Looked like a cat had died on his face or something. It was sad. So my only demand of him was that he would shave. But now that Nicola's home, she got home at like midnight last night, and she was super tired because she had been up since tomorrow or something with the time zone stuff. So she was pretty tired. But I'm sure once she's had a good couple hours of sleep, that will be all taken care of. That problem will fix itself, and I won't have to worry about that. But that is bad news. Shane will be on 2 weeks in a row, so you'll get some different stuff. He doesn't know anything about SharePoint anymore. He doesn't really know anything about anything technical anymore. So who knows what he's going to talk about, coloring books or comic books, I don't know. But he will be around. The production will probably also be a little bit delayed because it's tough for me to do on the road because I do all this on a machine here at my house. So I don't have that machine. I don't do it on my Surface anymore. But we'll figure something out. But that's some bad news. Another interesting tidbit, October 19th, that's today. Not only is it the day of the Canadian election, it also is the 6th anniversary of the day I went to work for Shane. I started at SharePoint 911 6 years ago. And then 3.5 years ago-ish, Rackspace bought us. So today, but Rackspace gives me my original anniversary date. So today is my official 6-year anniversary date at Rackspace, or my Rackiversary, as they all call it. So I've been getting all kinds of emails about that. And finally, we talked about this last week or a couple of weeks ago, but Lori and I are going to redo the netcast/podcast webpage. And by Lori and I mean Lori. And so she would like your input on how this works. She's got a survey set up, and it's only 4 or 5 questions, not much to it, but just, what you use on the page, what you don't like, what you do like, those kind of things. So much like the elections that are going on in Canada right now, if you don't vote, you don't get to complain about the page when she's done with it. And if it's got, cats that follow your cursor around on the screen or whatever, if you don't fill out the survey, you don't get to complain. That's the rule. So fill that out. That's at toddklindt.com/netcast. And here's like the 3rd time in a row I keep telling myself I should make a short URL for that, and I haven't. But that will happen at some point. So please fill that out for Lori, because if not, all she has is the feedback that I've given her, and it is horrible. I don't know how many times the phrase, "does the blink tag still work?" Has come up in our negotiations on that particular page. So please fill that out. All right. Well, let's do some topics. Everybody likes topics. Not a man, woman, or child alive that doesn't like topics. So let's talk about some of those. The big one, holy cow, the big one this week revolved around 6 little letters, Ignite. That was a big thing. It was a roller coaster of emotion last week. I laughed, I cried. It was pretty crazy. So let's start out. As I told you guys, like a year ago, I was on the Ignite Roundtable. I was graciously asked by some of the planners for Ignite to come talk to them about the Ignite. It was the first year they were doing Ignite, doing this big consolidated conference, doing it in Chicago, biggest conference they've done for this kind of thing. And they asked for me to join it. And there's a bunch of my friends there. Laura Rogers was there, and Fabian was there, and Naomi was there, and it was a big fun time. For that, Ignite was going to be, like May of this year. Well, it was May of this year. And we had done some roundtable talking, but we actually got together and went on site in September of last year. And I remember kind of going through, I don't know what made me think about it, but just a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, I was thinking, I haven't heard anything out of the roundtable folks. And we have a Yammer channel, but that doesn't mean anything because nobody knows how to use Yammer. I don't know what's in there. But I'd not gotten any emails or anything like that. And I was kind of curious because, again, at this time last year, they were starting to talk about stuff. And we had given them a lot of feedback afterwards, some of it even positive and constructive, and was just curious where they were going to go with all that and just hadn't heard anything. And then Wednesday night last week, October the 14th, a day that will live in infamy, we got a hint what was going on. Somebody at the Chicago Tribune leaked a story, or I got leaked a story, but talked to somebody at the Chicago Tourism Board that said that Microsoft was pulling out of Chicago for Ignite. And now this is horrible news. In all seriousness, this is horrible news for Chicago. I think the story estimated they lost something like 90,000 hotel room nights out of that deal, which is bad. Those people had been planned for it. Microsoft had already announced that Ignite was going to be in Chicago in 2016. And so that's a bad deal. I make light of it, but it really is a bad deal. But when we walked away from Ignite last year, I had a list of things that didn't go the way that I wanted them that was a mile long. The event center was really big, which was good, but it was too big. It was, you had to go back and forth, and then, you'd make this 4-mile walk to a session, and then it would be full. To tell you how bad things were, Shane and I did a session, and it was full. There were probably, I don't know how many people were in the room, a couple hundred, 300, something like that. But there were like 70 people standing out in the hallway, and that was for our session. So imagine what the popular sessions were like. But you would walk, the 4 miles over hill and dale through that conference center and then get to a room and it would be full. It was bad. The food there was not great. Conference food is never really good, but the food at Ignite was not good. And while the conference center had 2 restaurants in it, the McDonald's and that pizza place, and they were open, which was odd, that was all there was, because the conference center was, literally miles away from all kinds of other stuff. You couldn't go anywhere else to get food. And the logistics were just rough. Also, it was nowhere near any of the hotels. You had to take, 20-minute, 30-minute bus rides to get places. And then if you went to any of the events that were at night at the thing, then you had 20,000 people wait for buses at the same time. There were just a lot of these kind of things. So I remember when Ignite got done last year, I sent Denise Begley, who was kind of our person who did the Microsoft person who coordinated the roundtable. I sent her a long email with all the things that I wish they had done differently. Room for improvement. So, we said they should never do it here again, and then turns out they're not going to do it there anymore. So the story leaks on Wednesday night on the 14th. But again, it's just, one story on the Chicago Tribune, and everybody tweets it, and it was all over, but nobody had any official word from Microsoft on it. We didn't know. We hadn't heard anything. So Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning, depending on where you're at, Microsoft announced that Ignite had been moved. So everybody was saying Ignite had been canceled because that was what was in the title of the Tribune article, Microsoft canceling conference. So they did cancel it in Chicago, but they didn't cancel Ignite. They postponed it and moved it. So now instead of being in Chicago and in May, Ignite is going to be in Atlanta, September 26th through 30th. And Microsoft announced that on a bunch of different blogs. It's all over their websites, their web properties. But the thing that they mentioned was that they had some product cycle things coming up, and they wanted to move Ignite later into the year in Chicago, and the McCormick Center was just full. And I believe that. I doubt they got rid of the place just because of all the negative things that people said, but that was their story. So I've been to Atlanta to conferences before. I've been to a ton of tech eds there, and even a MEC back in like 1999 or 2000, went to a Microsoft Exchange conference there. It's a good venue. The other thing is it's kind of in a good area in Atlanta, and so you can walk a bunch of places. I was able to walk back and forth to the hotel, which is something I really like. And so that was good. Another good thing is it's just a couple hours from where Lori lives, so I don't have to worry about taking a cab or an Uber from the airport, because Lori will be sitting outside the arrivals, hopefully, thing with her horn, and I'll just be able to hitch a ride from her. So looking forward to that. We don't have a lot more information about that event yet, other than the stuff that Microsoft had to talk about. You can go to ignite.microsoft.com and pre-register for Ignite in Atlanta. Another thing that Microsoft did, and I clicked the wrong link. I can't use the web. Come here. There we go. Stay put. All right. So the other thing that Microsoft did was they released a blog post on blogs.microsoft.com that has all of the events that they've got going on next year. So they've got Build, which is for developers, going on in spring of 2016 in San Francisco, and then Convergence. I've got no idea what that is. That's April 4th through the 7th in New Orleans. World Partner Conference is in July in Toronto, and then Ignite in September in Atlanta. So glad that they got that all out there. We only had to wring our hands and feel nervous and confused for, 12, 14 hours, something like that. So glad we got that over. But again, roller coaster of emotions. It was horrible. It was very, very scary. So if I find anything more about that, I will let you all know. All right. So another equally serious question, and this came up on the internet. This came up a couple of times on the internet in the last couple of weeks, and I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. I've seen some what I consider to be foolish questions, and so I kind of wanted to address this. And this one is about the Microsoft ban. So Daniel Glenn, who's in the chat room right now, was the person that inspired me to talk about this today, but it has come up a couple of times before. And the question is, if you go for a run and your band does not record it, does it count? No, of course it doesn't count. If you go for a run and your fitness tracker doesn't record it, it doesn't count. It says, well, you might as well have not even gone for a run at all. This is a true story, by the way. About 3 weeks ago, I run over lunch on the days that I run. I ran today. You can, that's why my forehead's not quite so shiny. But there was a day 3 weeks ago or so, I thought I had some meetings, thought my morning was going to be busy, and so I wasn't planning on running. And then a couple of things got canceled, and I was able to go for a run. So then I looked down at my band, and it had like 30%, something like that. And I'm like, well, I turned the GPS on this thing, and it chews up 30% just finding the satellites. It'll never make it. I I can't run. So I took my band off immediately, hooked it up to the charger because I have a charger here at my desk for it, and let it charge for about, 20 minutes, half an hour. That got me up to 80%. I'm like, yeah, I could probably do it for 80%. But I, honest to God, seriously, would have left for my run earlier had the band been charged. Excuse me. It likely would have not run at all had it not gotten enough charge before for my run. So yes, Daniel, the run does not count. Exercise does not count unless it is properly recorded in your fitness tracker. So Beth in the chat room, she lives up in Minneapolis, which is that way, about 3 hours. She said she went for a run today. I did too. It was about 70 at lunchtime, so I went out and ran over lunch. It was delightful. My band recorded the whole thing. I can look back now. Oh, yeah, that's the stuff right there. Oh, right. Last run. So you can see it right there. Last run, 10:19. Focus. There we go. Yeah. So, yeah, but if you don't do it, if it's not for the fitness tracker, doesn't count. Of course not. Right. So let's talk. The next thing is the October cumulative update. So last Tuesday, the 13th, was Patch Tuesday. We need music for Patch Tuesday. We need like a little thing to go on in the background. So Patch Tuesday was last Tuesday. And so SharePoint got some patches. Windows got some patches too. There was a couple of pretty concerning security things in there. So if you've got Windows boxes, go ahead and get those things patched. But SharePoint got some patches as well. And the SharePoint 2013 patch had a couple of good things in it. Though I guess one good thing. The good thing about it is that it fixes the cannot attach files to list items bug that was introduced in the August 2015 patch for SharePoint 2013 and was also in September. So that was a good thing. And I've installed it on one farm, which is not a production farm, and it looks pretty good. So that was good. That was a big problem for a lot of people. And so I was glad that came out. Now, a couple of things, both August and September, the cumulative updates had a couple of weird quirks to them. And I just got to talk to somebody tonight on Twitter about that. Sometimes when you're installing the August or September cumulative updates on SharePoint 2013, and you're doing everything right, you clicked setup correctly, you clicked next correctly, everything was good, you were facing the right direction, you had your vegetables at supper, all that good stuff. Sometimes those cumulative updates just crash and go away, just silently disappear into the night, and there's nothing you can do to prevent it. If that happens, just rerun it. It's not a big deal. Now, I think when that's happened to me, I've always rebooted and then reran it, but I don't know that you have to do that. So a reboot, I did not have that same problem with October, but if it does just vanish, then go ahead and rerun it. The other thing is, while it's a good idea to run the config wizard as quickly as you can after these patches, previous patches have been more understanding about it. The August, September, and October patches, they really want you to run the config wizard just lickety-split, just as soon as humanly possible. They don't want you falling over your chair or anything, or breaking any legs, or hurting any animals or children, but run that config wizard just as fast as you can, because there's some bits that need to get jiggled sooner rather than later. So in the chat room, a couple people are asking, is it okay yet? My stance on cumulative updates hasn't changed. You shouldn't consider putting one in production in less than a month after it comes out. So this one's only been out 6 days, so I wouldn't do that. And then keep an eye on my blog. You can go to toddklindt.com/SP2013 builds, and that has all of them. And then every patch has its own wiki page, so check that wiki page often and see if there's anything that comes out. Also, at the bottom of each of those wiki pages now, I've got a subscription link where you can get emails if I change the page. So if you've got your eye on a particular patch, looked at all the patches, kind of saw the one that rubbed you the right way, you can click that link. That does take you to an external site, changedetection.com. And then see it'll let you know, it'll email you when I change it. So if I add more notes or regressions or anything, you can find out about that. And I see now that I've talked about running with the band, Daniel and Beth in the chat room are now thinking about going for a run. So that's awesome. I feel like I've helped do that a little bit. Don't nobody die or break a leg or anything. So another one. So this is one. So Josh is still in the chat room. Excellent. So Josh Blaylock is a coworker of mine at Rackspace. He does the Skype for Business product formerly known as Link stuff for us, and been talking to Josh for a while, for many months. He and I operate in the same spheres. We do the Microsoft thing. We're both work from home folks. So Josh is one of the folks that I talk to quite a bit. And Josh stumbled across my podcast as part of this whole him and I hanging out deal. And I think he watched this thing and said, "Oh, good Lord, this thing is horrible. My grandma's cat could make a better podcast than this." And poor Gordon's been gone for 7 years, and he still could do a better job than this. So what that did, my complete and utter incompetence at podcasting, spurred Josh on to do his own Unified Communications podcast. So he's got one episode out now, I think. That's all I've watched is one. But it's called the Skype4BRecap Podcast. It's on YouTube. I would give you the URL, but Josh hasn't signed up and got one of the fancy URLs like I have, so I couldn't even begin to say that. I have... his channel name would make a great password. It would be unhackable. So check that out. And he also has a blog, and let me get the URL for that. Put that out in the chat room. And it is msucguy.com. And so I know a lot of folks that listen to this thing do SharePoint, but they do other things as well. So if you do any unified communication stuff, check Josh's podcast out. Now, one thing I want to bring up is I've been doing this podcast now for 6-7 years. In March, I've been doing this podcast. And a lot of the things that I'm doing now are directly because of feedback. And by feedback, I mean complaining, that folks like you have done, people that listen to it, people that watch the stream, things like that. So you are at a pivotal point in Josh's podcasting career now. Sign up for his channel. Leave him nuggets. You can mold him. You can shape Josh and his podcast in the image of the podcast that you want. It's not often that you get to do that because he's just a couple episodes in. So by all means, check that out. I have subscribed to the channel, and I'll be watching it. So. And Josh is in the chat room right now, so give him a high five or whatever you hooligans do in the chat room. He will appreciate it. Okay, so another thing, this is not SharePoint related or sucking up to coworkers related at all, but I saw this in the news here when I was putting my notes together, that the U.S. government is planning on making drone registration mandatory. And so I haven't talked about it much in the last year or so, but I do own a drone. And the reason that I don't talk about my drone very much is because I broke it. So I guess my question, I haven't read this article yet about what the government's going to do, but my question is, there's a lot of nuances to this. If people make their own drones, do you have to register that? Do you have to register existing drones? What about the little itty bitty drones? Their size or weight limitations and all that. But my question was, do you have to register a drone that doesn't quite fly straight anymore, flies sort of like it's drunk because you got it stuck in your neighbor's tree and then knocked it out of said tree and it fell like 30 feet or so? Do you need to register those drones too? Because if you don't, then my drone is probably safe. So, and I don't know that I've told that story on this podcast or not, but I was out last summer flying my drone, and I've got to have a little AR drone, and it's pretty light, as all those are, because that means you can fly longer and all that. And I had it in my backyard, and I was flying it around, being a responsible drone owner, and the wind started to pick up, and these things are super light. And so the wind started picking up, and my drone started drifting, and it didn't have enough oomph to fight the wind, and it was drifting over towards a tree that kind of sits between two of my neighbors' nice property. So being the, that's probably why they want you to have some training on this. As I saw my drone starting to drift into the trees, I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll just have my drone go higher up and miss the tree. And instead of doing that, what I succeeded in doing is just getting my drone stuck farther up in a tree. And so there it is, and it got stuck in a tree in my neighbor to the south's yard. Fortunately, I know everybody in the neighborhood and we all get along. So I went over and knocked on his door, and I'm like, this is going to seem creepy, and it's way, way less creepy than it sounds. But out in your tree in your backyard, I got my drone stuck. And so me and another neighbor are going to be climbing up that tree here in a few minutes and getting it out. And instead of my neighbor being worried about that I was spying on him or anything, he's like, oh, those things are so awesome. I've seen them on the news. And so he and his wife came out under their deck and set their chairs up and had their iced teas out, watched me and my other neighbor nearly break our fool necks trying to get this get this drone out of the tree. So what we ended up doing, we were like, it was something out of like one of those memes that goes across the internet about why men die younger than women. It was like the two of us standing on my 6-foot fence with like a ladder, and then my neighbor had a piece of trim. He's a contractor, so he had like a piece of quarter round. And we're trying to reach up there and knock this thing out. And we got it out, but it did not survive the fall very well. So I replaced some parts on it, and it works mostly, but it just it doesn't fly right. So I'm curious, I'm gonna have to register that or not. I'm hoping not. Okay, so back to some SharePoint stuff. I really should have put this up earlier. This is something I've been meaning to talk about for like the last 3 weeks. This is just a good reference, but I kept forgetting about it. And this is a blog post from the ShareGate blog. So the ShareGate folks, good Canadian company up there in Montreal. Good folks up there that I know of them. ShareGate makes basically SharePoint migration tools. So if you're migrating from, SharePoint farm to farm, or, SharePoint on-prem to SharePoint online, whatever, ShareGate's a pretty good company to check out. So that's share-gate.com. But I was poking around looking for something, I don't know what it was, and found this blog post that they had on demystifying the SharePoint list thresholds. And I thought that was a pretty good article. And I read through, and it's written by Natalie Jard, it looks like. I apologize if I slaughtered your name, Natalie. So I kind of had two impressions about this. The article was good, and it talked about, hard limits and soft limits and thresholds and things like that, and what the implications were of each. So it's a really good read. The other thing that I took away from it was, if Natalie works at ShareGate, that means she works with Ben Nalen. And I just wanted to give her my condolences. Ben's an MVP. Ben and I go to a lot of the same conferences. Ben and I spent 2 weeks together last year in Australia and New Zealand. And so I feel a little bad for Natalie if she has to get up every morning and talk herself into going to work knowing that Ben's going to be there. I'm sure this is just a stepping stone for her. I'm sure she'll go on and succeed and do great things. Lord knows she'll be able to put up with anything if she can put up with working with Ben. So, but if you've got questions about the list thresholds inside of SharePoint 2013, items in a list and columns and indexes and, upload sizes and all that kind of stuff, you'll like this blog post. So again, this comes up a lot, and this was a pretty well written one, and I like that. So again, my condolences, Natalie. Maybe I can get you some page views on your blog, and you can do all that. So Ben, you guys, if you go to YouTube and watch any technical videos, and Lord, I hope you're watching this one on YouTube, youtube.com/Todd Klindt Netcast. But if you go to anyone that has ads on it, you've probably seen Ben's ugly mug. ShareGate hits those videos, hits the ads on those videos so hard. He's the goofball that has the big beard, and you keep wondering like where his parents are at, how they, he just wandered off or something. So that's you've probably seen Ben, probably thought foul of him. Okay, a couple more things and we're out. So if this week's PowerShell tip of the week, I had a different thing set up and I forgot to write it up and didn't realize that I'd done that. So this one is a spur of the moment one that I was going to do a little better on. So I wrote last week a blog post, or 2 weeks ago, about using the hybrid search service application with SharePoint 2013 and Office 365. Lots of great things in there. Go ahead and read that thing again. I would put a link to it, but I forgot. Oh, wait, I've got it. Don't go anywhere. I've got the link right here. Don't change it. Oh, don't move. I got it. Oh, and then I don't have it because I lost all my favorites on Internet Explorer. But anyway, that to do all that hybrid stuff, you have to download the Connect project from Klindt that has the installation scripts and all that kind of stuff. And the onboarding script had a little piece of code that I have played with on and off over the years trying to do this kind of thing, but I like the way they did it best. And what it is like 5 lines of code that tell you which version of SharePoint you have installed, because they do some different things with this, if it's SharePoint 2013 or SharePoint 2016. And what they do is they read the registry key, HKey local machine, software, Microsoft Office Server 15 search. And that gives them which version of SharePoint it is. So if the value there is 15, then it's SharePoint 2013. If the value there is 16, or I guess they're looking for /15 search or /16 search. So I know what you're all saying, that why would we go to all of this trouble? Because we could just do a get sp farm.build version, and that will give us the major and minor versions of the farm. The thing is, that doesn't work before the farm is built. And so this particular bit of code, this PowerShell snippet, lets you figure out which version of SharePoint is installed before your farm is created. Where would you use a piece of code like that? Perhaps in your farm construction PowerShell script. So I'm going to be rewriting a bunch, or I'm in the process of rewriting a bunch of my PowerShell snippets to work in 2010, 2013, 2016. And this is one of those ways where I'll be able to put some logic branches in there and say, okay, if this is 2013, I want to build my farm this way. If it's 2016, I want to build my farm this way. Because where that becomes important is because now that 2016 has this new min role, when you add a server to your farm, you need to specify the min role settings. And the 2013 version doesn't understand that. So you need to have a fork there to tell you which one it is. So I hope to blog this. I've meant to blog this and I completely forgot it. But that is this week's PowerShell tip of the week: finding the version of SharePoint that is installed before your farm is built. Okay, one last thing to talk about here. Actually, I'm just going to give this as a teaser because I kind of want to do a little more lately. But one of the things I've been focusing on a lot lately in my day job, besides just avoiding work at all costs and all that, is been doing a lot with identity and synchronizing identity, the old DirSync, Azure AD Connect stuff, federating identity, ADFS, and all the reasons you would do one over the other, things like that. And so I've got a link here on how to set up ADFS 3.0, which is the ADFS that comes with Windows Server 2012 R2, how to set that up with SharePoint 2013. But I think I'm going to hold off on that because I've got a bunch of other ADFS things that I'm going to talk about. And we'll do them all at once. So, how to use ADFS with Office 365, how to use ADFS with SharePoint 2013, how to use ADFS if you have multiple domains, those kind of things. So I will probably in a couple of weeks here, well, not the next two, talk a lot about ADFS and the different permutations and all that kind of stuff. So I've got that in the notes, but I'm not actually going to share it with you. I'm not going to tell you about it. But the ADFS stuff, the identity things, there have been a lot of fun things. I've enjoyed that the last few months. I've been working on that. So I look to have some more of that coming up. All right. Joanne has a Canadian election to rig, and I wholeheartedly support her in that endeavor. So we'll get this show on the road. We'll move to everybody's favorite part because it's last, the shameless self-promotion part. So actually I have a couple of new things to add here quick. The folks at IT Unity, Dan Holm and Lyman and those guys, have graciously allowed Jason and I to do another presentation for them. And I would like to think it's because our last one went over well, but it's probably really because we work cheap. That's probably what it is. But these are going to be happening super fast. So these happen Thursday, I believe. So I don't know if this show will be out by then or not. But we're doing two webinars on Thursday. One is SharePoint on-prem penalties, what you can and can't do if you're on-prem, what the things that get you there. And then we're doing a complimentary one about Office 365 called Diamonds and Razor Blades, which again is the same kind of thing. What goes on with Office 365, the gotchas and things like that. These are free as far as I know. Heaven knows they should be if they're not. So you can sign up for them at itunity.com. Search for my name. I'll have some links out there. I'll probably put a blog post out for this one because I just got those URLs this weekend. We were planning on doing this earlier and everybody got busy and all that. So check those out. And again, these are going to be live. So you can, there's going to be a chat room, not nearly as fun and good looking as the chat room that this podcast has, but It's not bad. As far as the internet goes, it's above average. But you'll be able to chat and ask questions and things like that. And Jason and I'll be in there. That is this week, this Thursday, I believe. Let me check my calendar. You open up Outlook and see. Nope, I lied completely. That is all Wednesday, the 21st. So check all that out on Wednesday, the 21st. I will definitely blog that tonight. All right. So then next week, I've already talked about that. I'm doing Dev Intersections. That's October 26th through the 29th. All of my sessions are on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm doing Azure Active Directory, how to get that all set up and what to do with that. Hybrid scenarios with SharePoint 2013, and then upgrading to SharePoint. So upgrading to SharePoint 2016, looking for some good content there. I've been talking to Bill Bear and need to get some of the skinny on that, but that will be Tuesday and Wednesday. If you're at Dev Intersection, by all means, come find me and say, hey, I don't think Rackspace has a booth there, but you can come find me. I'm sure certain there'll be plenty of spaces to sit in my sessions, so you can come there, take a load off. But introduce yourself, shake my hand, say, hey, do all those things. I would love to meet you. And then finally, in February, I know that's a long ways out, but I've already got that on the schedule. SP TechCon will be in Austin, Texas. That is February 21st through the 24th. And so I'll be speaking there. I don't know what I'll be speaking on for sure yet, but I will be there. So look for you there. All right, folks, we're just a little over 35 minutes. Plenty of time for people to catch that Canadian election results and all that kind of stuff. And I will see you guys in 3 weeks. Go easy on Shane. He does the best with what he's got. He really does. Try to find ways to make him say orange. That's always fun. Everybody loves that. And I will see you guys in 3 weeks. Talk to you later. Have a good night.